Eleanor Martinez stared at the holographic invitation floating above her kitchen table, its crystalline edges pulsing with the Martinez Construction Corp logo, a sleek tower that rotated slowly in mid-air. The corporate seal glowed an ostentatious gold, nothing like the simple wooden cross her grandfather had carved for the family's first building site 50 years ago. "Mia, this year is different." Her mother's voice had carried unusual weight through the neural link call that morning. "Your father has something significant to announce about the company and our future. The whole family will be there. Board members, investors, everyone." Eleanor swiped the invitation away, and it dissolved into pixels. Through her apartment window above Rosewood Books, the city's vertical farms stretched toward the artificial atmosphere dome, their bioluminescent crops painting the walls in shifting greens and blues. Her reflection stared back, no neural implants glowing at her temples, no status-indicating dermal displays crawling up her arms like her siblings wore. Just plain Eleanor, as Marcus had called her since they were kids. Her personal AI, Sage, materialized as a subtle blue glow near her wrist. "Eleanor, you have 17 new royalty notifications. Your children's series has achieved another milestone." "Not now, Sage." Eleanor's fingers found the manuscript pages scattered across her dining table, physical paper, another eccentricity that made her family roll their enhanced eyes. The latest EM Sunshine book about a girl who built schools instead of skyscrapers had just cracked the Global Education Authority's top 10, but she'd programmed Sage to filter those notifications. Success felt hollow when you couldn't share it. A knock at her door made her sweep the manuscripts into a drawer. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, her weathered hands clutching a data pad. "Eleanor, dear, I'm sorry to bother you again. David's portfolio submission is due tonight for the Neo Singapore project, and I still don't understand these holographic interfaces." Eleanor's chest tightened at David's name, but she smiled. "Of course, Mrs. Chen, let me help." The elderly woman's fingers trembled as she activated the pad. David Chen's architectural designs bloomed into three-dimensional life, affordable housing complexes that integrated vertical farming, community spaces that fostered human connection instead of digital isolation. His bio-responsive buildings could adapt to their inhabitants' needs, growing and changing like living organisms. "He's brilliant," Mrs. Chen said, pride warm in her voice. "Too bad he wastes time on housing for the poor instead of luxury towers. No neural enhancements either, just like you. Says he wants to design with his heart, not a computer." Eleanor's pulse quickened. She'd been messaging David through encrypted channels for months, their conversations dancing around architecture and social justice, but something deeper hummed beneath their exchanges. He was one of the few people who understood why she chose to live without the constant stream of augmented reality that most people couldn't function without. "I'm sure he'll do well," Elena managed. 3 kilometers across the city, Victoria Martinez reclined in her BMW's massage seat while her personal AI streamed real-time market data directly into her visual cortex. The neural implants at her temples pulsed amber, the color of aggressive acquisition mode. "Close the Henderson deal," she commanded, her manicured fingernails drumming against the car's bio-responsive dashboard. "I don't care if the family gets displaced. Progress demands sacrifice." Her reflection in the smart glass window showed a woman crafted for success. Cheekbones sharpened by microsurgery, eyes that glowed with data overlays, skin that displayed her mood and social status through programmable chromatophores. The Martinez Construction logo pulsed gold on her left temple, executive level. "Victoria," her AI assistant Lux purred in her mind, "your credit utilization has exceeded safe parameters again. The Prada biosuit purchase." "Fund it through the corporate account," Victoria snapped. "Once Dad announces the succession plan tonight, those expenditures will be irrelevant." She activated her social feed, capturing a video of herself against the city skyline. Building the future, one luxury development at a time. Marquez legacy, visionary leadership, Next Gen Corp. The post automatically tagged the Martinez Construction shareholders and uploaded across all platforms. What her followers couldn't see was the maxed-out credit balance pulsing red in her peripheral vision, or the way her hands shook slightly when she wasn't being recorded. Across town in his Neo-Tokyo penthouse, Marcus Martinez stood shirtless before a ring of recording drones, his abs enhanced with muscle definition implants that made him look like a carbon fiber sculpture. "What's up, dynasty builders?" His voice carried the artificial enthusiasm that came from vocal modulation software. "Today I'm going to tell you about generational wealth, how to inherit right and multiply fast." The drones circled him like predatory birds, capturing every angle as he gestured toward holographic charts showing theoretical investment returns. Behind him, the city sprawled in neon glory, a perfect backdrop for his brand of digital snake oil. "The Martinez family built an empire from dirt and determination," Marcus continued, his neural implants pulsing green to indicate his credibility ratings. "Soon I'll show you how traditional construction is dead. The future is crypto infrastructure, digital real estate, virtual development zones." What his 2 million followers couldn't see was the credit application floating in his peripheral vision, another loan to maintain the lifestyle that kept them watching. His crypto portfolio had crashed 6 months ago, but his personal AI, Hustle, helped him craft the narrative of constant success. "Don't forget to hit that neural sync button for instant investment tips," he added, knowing each sync generated micropayments that kept his penthouse powered for another day. In the executive suite of Martinez Construction's headquarters, Roberto and Maria Martinez sat across from each other at a table carved from a single piece of Earth-origin mahogany, a luxury that cost more than most people's homes. Roberto's hands, still scarred from his years mixing concrete before the automation revolution, traced the wood grain. No neural implants adorned his weathered face, no dermal displays broadcast his net worth. At 72, he remained stubbornly analog in a digital world. "Are we doing the right thing, Roberto?" Maria's voice carried the weight of their shared 50 years. Her own enhancements were minimal, just a health monitor that tracked her diabetes and a communication implant for emergencies. "Victoria and Marcus will be devastated." Roberto pulled up holographic financial reports that painted the air between them in columns of light. "Look at these numbers, Maria. Victoria's division is profitable only because she cuts corners on safety and materials. Marcus hasn't generated a single legitimate revenue stream. It's all social media smoke and mirrors. But Elena understands what we built this company for." Roberto's finger traced through a particular data stream. "Do you see this? 3 months of anonymous donations to the Workers' Healthcare Fund, payments for the children's educational programs. Someone's been using an untraceable account to support our people when the corporate budget couldn't." Maria leaned forward. "You think it's Elena?" "I know it's Elena. She's been using her book money, yes, I figured it out, to quietly support everything her siblings are trying to cut from the budget." Through the window, construction mechs moved like metal dancers across the city's skeleton, building towers that would house thousands. Roberto had started with hand tools and a truck. Now his company shaped skylines across 3 continents. "The others see this as their inheritance," he continued. "Elena sees it as our responsibility. There's a difference." Maria nodded slowly. "The announcement tonight, are you sure?" "The board agrees. It's time to see which of our children truly understands what the Martinez name means." The grounded bean occupied the basement level of a vertical farm, one of the few places in the city where neural signals couldn't penetrate the biointerference from the crops above. Eleanor descended the worn stairs, breathing in the rich scent of actual soil and coffee beans, both rarities in their hydroponic age. David Chen sat in their usual corner booth, his dark hair falling across his forehead as he studied architectural projections floating above his tablet. No neural implants interrupted the clean lines of his face, no status indicators glowed beneath his skin. Like Eleanor, he'd chosen to remain unenhanced, relying on natural intelligence in a world that had mostly forgotten what that looked like. "You're tense," he said without looking up, but his mouth curved in a half smile. Eleanor slipped into the booth across from him. "Family dinner tonight. The annual Martinez Construction Holiday Spectacular." "Ah." David finally looked at her, his brown eyes warm and knowing. "The one where you pretend to be the family failure while secretly funding half their charitable initiatives." Heat rose in Elena's cheeks. "I never said I was funding anything." "You didn't have to. I've been watching the housing projects in Sector 7. Someone with serious money has been upgrading the infrastructure, adding community spaces, improving the schools. The paper trail goes cold, but the architectural philosophy—" He leaned forward, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixing with the coffee-scented air. "It matches the community centre designs you've been sketching." Their eyes met across the table, and Elena felt the familiar electric current that ran between them whenever they were alone. David's fingers found hers, calloused from actual drafting work instead of neural interface manipulation. "When are you going to tell them?" he asked softly. "About the books, about the foundation, about—" His thumb traced across her knuckles. "About us. Tonight," Eleanor said, though her stomach clenched at the thought. "My parents promised they'd help me explain everything after Dad's announcement." David's grip tightened slightly. "And what if they don't understand? What if they can't see past the image they've created of you?" Elena stared down at their joined hands. "Then I guess I'll know where I really stand." "You know where you stand with me." The words hung between them, loaded with promise and possibility. Elena looked up to find David watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Do I?" she whispered. Instead of answering, David stood and moved to her side of the booth. His hand found her face, thumb tracing along her jawline as he leaned down. "You're the most accomplished person I know, Elena Martinez. And when your family realizes what they've been missing, I want to be standing beside you." Their kiss was soft, careful, full of months of careful friendship blooming into something deeper. Eleanor's hands fisted in David's shirt as he pressed closer, and for a moment, the weight of family expectations and secret successes faded away. When they broke apart, David's forehead rested against hers. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, whatever happens tonight." Eleanor's ancient Honda, one of the last petroleum-powered vehicles still legally operated within the city limits, wheezed to a stop in the circular drive of the Martinez family estate. Around her, sleek vehicles hummed with electric efficiency. Victoria's BMW that could pilot itself through traffic while she conducted business. Marcus's Lamborghini that broadcast his social media feeds through holographic displays on its hood. The estate itself was a testament to Roberto's journey from immigrant laborer to construction mogul. The original adobe structure, where Eleanor's grandparents had lived, formed the heart of a sprawling compound that grew outward in wings of glass and steel. Bioluminescent trees lined the pathways, their genetically modified leaves casting everything in soft blue light. Eleanor smoothed her dress, navy blue fabric she'd sewn herself, cut in clean lines that would photograph well but carried none of the embedded tech that made modern clothing interactive. No mood-responsive fibers, no climate control, no social media integration. Just cotton and thread and careful work. "Elena!" Aunt Carmen materialized on the front steps, her arms spread wide. Carmen's enhancements were subtle but comprehensive. Wrinkle-free skin that glowed with health monitors, eyes that shifted color based on her emotional state, fingernails that displayed her calendar appointments in tiny script. "Sweetheart, you look—" Carmen's pause stretched long enough to be noticeable. Comfortable, very authentic. The embrace was brief but efficient, Carmen's social analysis software undoubtedly cataloguing Eleanor's net worth based on her clothing choices, posture, and lack of visible technology. When are you going to treat yourself to something nice? Carmen continued, her voice pitched loud enough for the other arriving family members to hear. A woman your age should have standards, expectations, some self-respect. Eleanor's jaw tightened, but she managed a smile. I like simple things, Tia Carmen. Oh, mija, there's nothing wrong with simple, but there's a difference between simple and… Carmen's eyes swept over Eleanor's appearance again. Well, I'm sure you're doing your best. Through the estate's smart glass windows, Eleanor could see the party taking shape inside. Board members mingled with family, their neural implants creating a constellation of blinking lights as they shared data, compared portfolios, and negotiated deals through thought-based interfaces. Victoria swept past in a dress that cost more than most people's yearly salary, her boyfriend trailing behind like an expensive accessory. She caught sight of Elena and whispered something that made him laugh. Marcus held court near the bar, regaling investors with stories of his latest cryptocurrency ventures while his personal AI fed him real-time market data to sprinkle into his conversation. And there, at the center of it all, stood Roberto Martinez. Still broad-shouldered despite his age, still carrying himself like a man who had built something lasting. His eyes found Elena across the crowd and softened with something that might have been pride. Elena. Her mother appeared at her elbow, elegant in the way that came from decades of graceful living rather than technological enhancement. You made it. I said I would, Mama. Maria's hand found Elena's arm, a gentle squeeze that conveyed more than words. Your father has been looking forward to tonight for months. We both have. Elena nodded, her throat tight. Around them, the Martinez dynasty glittered in all its technological glory, a family that had risen from nothing to reshape the skyline of multiple worlds. Tonight, her father would announce his succession plans, and Elena's carefully constructed life of quiet anonymity would crumble. She just hoped that what emerged from the ruins would be worth the fall. The Martinez dining room gleamed under bioluminescent chandeliers that responded to the guests' collective mood, currently pulsing an ambitious amber that matched the neural implants of the board members scattered throughout the long table. Elena sat between her cousin Luis, whose neck tattoos displayed his cryptocurrency portfolio in real time, and Dr. Vasquez, the family's augmentation specialist, whose eyes literally glowed with surgical enhancement advertisements. The quarterly reports are extraordinary, Doctor, Vasquez was saying to Roberto, her voice modulated to the perfect pitch for trust building. Martinez Construction's neural interface integration contracts alone have increased productivity by 300%. Eleanor cut her lab-grown steak, another concession to the family's image, though she missed the simple beef her grandmother used to cook. Around her, conversations flowed through multiple channels. Spoken words layered with neural link data streams and augmented reality overlays that only the enhanced could see. She was effectively invisible. Eleanor, honey? Victoria's voice cut through the digital chatter like a blade wrapped in silk. The table's attention algorithms immediately shifted focus to Eleanor, causing the chandeliers to pulse with curiosity. Yellow? I saw the news about the branch library closures. Such a shame about your little workplace. Eleanor's fork paused halfway to her mouth. The Rosewood branch isn't closing. We're just restructuring services. Oh, of course. Victoria's smile was perfect, each tooth carved to optimal proportions, lips enhanced to convey sincerity, while her neural implants broadcast amusement to anyone with the right apps. But really, maybe it's time to consider a career change. I could get you an entry-level position at my agency. Nothing too demanding, filing, perhaps, coffee runs. The table's mood sensors picked up Elena's spike in stress, shifting the ambient lighting to a cautionary orange. Dr. Vasquez leaned closer, her enhanced olfactory sensors probably detecting Elena's adrenaline. "That's very generous," Elena managed, her voice steady despite the heat building behind her ribs. Marcus looked up from his plate, where he'd been taking photos for his social feed. "Speaking of changes, sis, that Honda of yours is becoming a legitimate safety hazard, the insurance liability alone." He shook his head with practiced concern. "I could teach you about building credit for a real car loan, nothing fancy, maybe something from this decade." Laughter rippled around the table, but it was the polite kind that social protocols demanded, rather than genuine amusement. Eleanor's knuckles whitened as she gripped her fork. Each comment landed with surgical precision, designed to cut just deep enough to hurt without appearing malicious to observers. "I appreciate the concern," Eleanor said carefully, "but my car works fine for my needs." "Your needs," Aunt Carmen repeated, savoring the words like fine wine. "At your age, Elena, most women have established themselves. Career advancement, relationship goals, financial security." Carmen's dermal displays lit up with statistics about women Eleanor's age, average net worth, marriage rates, property ownership. "Don't you want success, security, some ambition?" The word ambition hung in the air like an accusation. Eleanor felt every enhanced eye at the table cataloguing her response, their social analysis software measuring her micro-expressions for signs of shame or anger. "I have ambitions," Eleanor said quietly. "They're just different from yours." "Different?" Carmen's tone suggested this was a disease. "How wonderfully unique." Roberto cleared his throat, and the table's attention systems immediately focused on him. As the evening's host and the company's founder, his biometric signature commanded respect from every device in the room. "Before we discuss the future," he began, his voice carrying the authority of 5 decades in construction, "I want to hear from my children about their vision for Martinez construction." Victoria straightened, her posture automatically adjusting to what her enhancement protocols determined was optimal for boardroom confidence. "Dad, I've already identified 3 prime development locations in Neo Singapore, Lunar City, and the Europa stations. We could triple our profit margins with luxury orbital condos. The waiting lists alone would generate billions in pre-sales." Her neural implants projected holographic models into the air above the table, gleaming towers that stretched toward artificial skies, each unit costing more than most people would earn in their lifetimes. The board members nodded appreciatively as their own enhancement systems calculated potential returns. "Impressive," Roberto said neutrally. Marcus activated his own presentation, flooding the room with data streams and cryptocurrency projections. "And I've been researching blockchain integration for all construction contracts. Smart buildings that mine digital currency, rental agreements that execute automatically through neural link verification, construction materials that track their own provenance through quantum encoding." The technical terminology flowed smoothly from his enhanced vocal cords, each concept designed to sound revolutionary to investors. Elena noticed how his eyes never quite met his father's during the presentation, a tell that his analysis software probably should have caught. "Revolutionary thinking," Dr. Vasquez murmured, though Eleanor detected skepticism in her tone. Neither Victoria nor Marcus had asked Eleanor for her thoughts. They never did. She was a placeholder at these gatherings, the family member who filled a chair and reminded everyone of their own success by comparison. Roberto's eyes found Elena across the table. "And what about you, Mija? What's your vision for the company's future?" The question caught Victoria mid-sip of her wine, synthetic alcohol designed to provide the social benefits of drinking without impairing her neural function. Marcus's holographic presentation flickered as his attention divided. Eleanor felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I think—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. I think we should remember why Abuelo started this company: to build homes for people who needed them, communities where families could grow. How quaint, Victoria murmured, but her dermal displays betrayed irritation. The profit margins on affordable housing are minimal, Marcus added, his social media training kicking in to maintain engagement. You can't build a dynasty on charity work. Can't you? Elena asked quietly. The table fell silent. Even the ambient lighting seemed to pause, sensors struggling to interpret the shift in mood. Roberto leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Interesting perspectives. All of them. Dessert arrived on platters carried by service drones that moved with mechanical precision between the chairs. Eleanor stared at her portion, some molecular gastronomy creation that probably cost more than a month of groceries for a normal family. The conversation had shifted to safer topics: market trends, political developments, the latest advances in human enhancement technology. Eleanor found herself studying the faces around the table, noting how the modifications had gradually erased the small imperfections that made people unique. Everyone looked like optimized versions of themselves: perfect teeth, flawless skin, eyes that never quite looked tired or sad or genuinely surprised. Elena, dear, Aunt Carmen's voice cut through her observations like a scalpel. I've been thinking about our earlier conversation. Elena's stomach clenched. Oh, about ambition and success and finding your place in the world. Carmen's enhancement perfect smile radiated false warmth. Maybe you should consider that some people are just meant to live smaller lives. It's not a judgment, it's simply reality. Not everyone can be successful like Victoria and Marcus. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Around the table, conversations paused as social analysis algorithms detected the emotional shift. The bioluminescent chandeliers dimmed to a cautious blue, responding to the spike in stress hormones. Eleanor's vision blurred slightly. The careful composure she'd maintained all evening cracked like glass under pressure. "Excuse me," she managed, pushing back from the table with more force than necessary. "I need some air." She didn't wait for responses, didn't acknowledge the concerned murmurs, or the way Victoria's neural implants probably flagged this as a social media opportunity. Eleanor moved through the sliding glass doors onto the estate's back patio, where the artificial night sky stretched above them like a painted canvas. Her hand shook as she pulled out her phone, one of the few non-enhanced communication devices still in regular use. The screen felt clunky after watching everyone else manipulate data through thought alone, but it was private. Real. "David," she typed, "I can't do this anymore. They're never going to see me as anything but their failure." Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself, breathing in the recycled air that passed for a night breeze in their enclosed city. The patio's smart surfaces detected her distress and began playing soft music, adjusting the lighting to what psychological algorithms determined would be most calming. She hated that even her emotional breakdown was being managed by technology. "Elena!" She spun around, heart hammering. David Chen stood at the edge of the patio, having somehow bypassed the estate's security systems. He wore a simple black jacket over dark jeans, no enhancement glow visible anywhere on his unmodified features. "David, how did you—" "Your grandmother gave me the access codes months ago," he said, stepping closer. "She said I might need them someday." His eyes searched her face, cataloguing the tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I was monitoring the local traffic systems when I saw your stress indicators spike. Figured you might need backup." Despite everything, Eleanor almost smiled. "You were tracking my biometrics." "Only the public ones. Your heart rate's been elevated all evening." David closed the distance between them, his presence solid and reassuring in a world of digital illusions. "What did they say?" Eleanor's composure crumbled completely. "They think I'm a failure, a disappointment, that I'm meant for a smaller life because I don't have neural implants or a 7-figure net worth or a holographic boyfriend who exists primarily for social media." David's jaw tightened. "You are not a failure." "Aren't I? Look at me, David. I live above a bookstore. I drive a car from 2065. I don't have a single enhancement or modification or technological upgrade. In their world, I barely exist." "In their world?" David said fiercely, stepping close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his unenhanced body. "Maybe, but in the real world, you're the most successful person I know." Eleanor looked up at him, searching his face for signs of the polite lies that enhanced people told so easily. But David's eyes were clear, unfiltered by digital overlays or social protocol software. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" he continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "I see someone who's built something real, something lasting, someone who chooses to help people instead of exploit them, who creates beauty instead of just consuming it." His hands found her shoulders, anchoring her to something solid in a world of shifting illusions. "You're not smaller than them, Elena. You're just different. Better, maybe." The space between them seemed to compress, filled with months of careful friendship and professional collaboration that had slowly evolved into something deeper. Eleanor could feel David's heartbeat through his jacket, could smell his cologne mixing with the recycled air. "David," she whispered. Instead of answering, he pulled her closer. Their first kiss on the patio was hungry, desperate, Eleanor melting into his strength as months of careful distance collapsed. His hands tangled in her hair, hers fisted in his jacket, and for a moment the weight of family expectations and technological inadequacy fell away. When they broke apart, David's forehead rested against hers. Above them, the artificial stars pulsed in their programmed patterns, but Eleanor barely noticed. "They don't deserve you," he murmured against her ear. "And when they realize what they've been missing, I want to be standing right beside you." Eleanor and David separated reluctantly as voices drifted from inside. Through the smart glass windows, she could see the dinner party gathering around Roberto, who stood with an official-looking envelope in his hands. "I should go back in," Elena said, though every instinct told her to run. David's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "I'll be right here." Eleanor straightened her dress and wiped away the last traces of tears, drawing on reserves of strength she hadn't known she possessed. When she walked back into the dining room, conversations paused as social analysis algorithms noted her return. Roberto waited until she'd taken her seat before continuing. The envelope in his hand seemed to glow under the chandelier's attention-focused lighting. "Before I make this announcement," he said slowly, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room, "I want each of my children to tell me what family means to you, what the Martinez name represents." Victoria straightened immediately, her enhancement-optimized posture conveying confidence and authority. "Family means having each other's backs and building something bigger together, making sure we all succeed and that the Martinez legacy continues to grow. It's about loyalty, shared vision, and making sure everyone benefits from our collective success." Her neural implants probably fed her real-time feedback on how her words were being received, adjusting tone and emphasis for maximum impact. Roberto nodded thoughtfully. "And you, Marcus?" Marcus activated his presentation mode, his voice taking on the practiced rhythm of his social media persona. "Family is about legacy, Dad. Making sure the Martinez name means something important in the digital age. It's about innovation, adaptation, and staying relevant as the world changes. We have to think bigger than just construction. We're building the future itself." Eleanor noticed how neither of her siblings mentioned the people their company actually served. Everything was about growth, profit, image, legacy, abstract concepts that looked good on corporate presentations. Elena? All eyes turned to her, enhanced and natural alike. Eleanor felt the weight of their expectations, their assumptions, their carefully categorized dismissal of everything she represented. "Family means taking care of each other." she said quietly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Especially those who can't take care of themselves. It means using whatever gifts we have, money, influence, talent, to make the world a little better than we found it. She paused, thinking of David waiting on the patio, of the children who read her books, of the families who would benefit from affordable housing if anyone cared enough to build it. It means remembering that success isn't just about what you accumulate, but what you contribute, what you leave behind for the people who come after you. The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of environmental systems and the distant pulse of neural link activity. Roberto's expression remained unreadable, but Eleanor thought she saw something like pride flicker in his eyes. "Then you'll understand my decision," he said gravely, raising the envelope. Eleanor's heart hammered as she realized that whatever was about to happen would change everything. The careful balance she'd maintained between family loyalty and personal integrity was about to shatter. And for the first time in years, she wasn't sure she was ready for the consequences. Roberto's hands trembled as he opened the holographic seal on the envelope, the Martinez construction logo dissolving into pixels before reforming as a legal document that projected itself above the table. The bioluminescent chandeliers dimmed to focus white, their sensors detecting the shift toward a moment of critical importance. "Your inheritance," Roberto began, his voice carrying the weight of 5 decades building an empire, "won't be yours anymore." The room held its collective breath. Eleanor could hear the soft whir of recording drones adjusting their positions, the subtle hum of neural implants processing information, the almost inaudible click of enhancement-modified hearts synchronizing with stress responses. "Because we've already given it away." The silence shattered like glass. Victoria's wine glass, real crystal, not the synthesized alternatives most people used, slipped from her enhanced grip and exploded against the floor. The smart surfaces immediately began absorbing the liquid and fragments, but Victoria didn't notice. Her dermal displays flickered through a chaos of colors as her emotional regulation systems overloaded. "What?" The word tore from her throat, distorted by vocal enhancement glitches. "Dad, what do you mean, given it away?" Marcus rocketed to his feet, his chair clattering backward. His neural implants blazed red as his financial apps began rapid-fire calculations. "Dad, I have loans. I have commitments. My social media empire depends on the backing of Martinez Construction. My followers expect—" "Roberto!" Aunt Carmen's gasp cut through Marcus's rambling, her enhancement-perfect features contorted with something approaching genuine emotion. "What have you done? The family legacy, the business, the—" "Calm down." Roberto's voice carried the authority of a man who'd built skyscrapers from nothing. "Let me explain." Elena felt the world tilting around her. This wasn't how they'd planned it. Her parents were supposed to ease into the revelation, to prepare the family gradually. But looking at Roberto's expression, determined, almost relieved, she realized he'd changed the script. 3 months ago, Roberto continued, we discovered something that changed everything about this family. His eyes found Elena across the table, and she felt heat rise in her cheeks. Around them, the dinner guests, board members, investors, family friends, leaned forward with the hungry attention of people witnessing a dynasty crumble in real time. "Eleanor," Roberto said gently, "would you like to tell them, or should we—" Eleanor's face burned. "Papa, you promised we'd keep this quiet until after David arrived." Roberto's interruption was perfectly timed, as if he'd orchestrated the entire evening around this moment. As if summoned by his words, the front door's security system chimed. Eleanor's heart hammered as she recognized the biometric signature being processed by the house AI. David Chen appeared in the dining room doorway, carrying a bouquet of real flowers, not the bioluminescent synthetics that most people preferred, and a bottle of wine that looked older than Eleanor's car. His unenhanced features seemed almost shocking in a room full of technologically perfected faces. The smart glass windows automatically adjusted their transparency to frame him in optimal lighting, but David barely seemed to notice. His eyes found Eleanor immediately, and the smile that crossed his face was warm, private, and completely authentic. "Sorry I'm late, love," he said, crossing to Elena and pressing a soft kiss to her cheek. The gesture was casual, intimate, speaking of dozens of such kisses shared in private. The mayor's office finally approved our proposal for the Community Learning Centre. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor could practically see the social analysis algorithms in her family members' enhancement systems crashing as they tried to process this development. David Chen, successful architect, completely unenhanced, calling Elena love and talking about municipal approvals as if they were a team. Victoria's mouth opened and closed without sound. Marcus's neural implants flickered as his brain struggled to integrate this new information into his worldview. Even Dr. Vasquez looked genuinely surprised for the first time all evening. "David," Elena managed, her voice barely above a whisper, "you weren't supposed to—" "Actually," Roberto said, standing slowly, "David's timing is perfect, because what he and Elena have been working on together is exactly what I want to discuss." Roberto moved to the head of the table, his presence commanding attention from every enhanced and unenhanced eye in the room. Maria joined him, her hand finding his arm in a gesture of unified support. "3 years ago," Roberto began, "Eleanor came to us with a proposal. She'd been writing children's books under a pen name and had earned more money than our construction business makes in 2 years. Eleanor watched Victoria's face cycle through disbelief, confusion, and something that might have been recognition. Marcus's financial apps were probably pulling data, searching for any mention of EM Sunshine in the literary databases. But instead of keeping that money," Maria continued, her voice soft but carrying clearly in the suddenly attentive room, "she wanted to transform our company into something meaningful." Elena created a foundation, Roberto said, pride evident in his voice despite Elena's mortification. "One that builds affordable housing and community centres. She's been funding it with her book royalties and developing educational programs that actually help people instead of just generating profit." David moved closer to Elena, his presence solid and reassuring. She could feel the warmth radiating from his unenhanced body, could smell his cologne mixing with the recycled air that passed for atmosphere in their enclosed city. "The inheritance you've been counting on." Roberto's voice turned hard. "It's now a thriving social enterprise worth 3 times what the old business was, but it only employs family members who prove they share our values." The room exploded into chaos. Board members activated their communication implants, probably already leaking the news to financial networks. Dr. Vasquez's enhancement systems began recording everything for later analysis. Aunt Carmen made a sound like a wounded animal, but Elena only had eyes for her siblings. Victoria's enhancement perfect composure cracked like a facade under pressure. "You let me base my entire career plan on a lie." Her voice climbed to a pitch that her vocal modifications couldn't quite smooth out. "I've made promises to clients. I've leveraged my reputation on the Martinez name. She stopped abruptly, probably receiving a flood of messages through her neural implants as news of the foundation began spreading through the enhanced community's data networks. Marcus was staring at his hands, where his dermal displays showed his financial situation in stark detail. "Dad, I've been living off credit because I thought I had this backup plan. My followers, my brand, everything I've built depends on being a Martinez heir. Without that ... His voice trailed off as the reality of his situation sank in. Eleanor felt a familiar knot of guilt forming in her stomach. These were her siblings, whatever their flaws. She'd watched them struggle for years, never knowing that their struggles were based on a fundamental misunderstanding of their family's priorities. You both assumed I was a failure, Eleanor said, her voice steadier than she felt. David's hand found hers under the table, anchoring her. You never asked about my life, my work, or what made me happy. You just decided that because I didn't have neural implants or a seven-figure visible net worth, I must be disappointing. David stepped closer, his hands finding Elena's shoulders. The gesture was protective, possessive in the best possible way. Eleanor didn't just build a business empire, he said, his voice carrying clearly across the room. She built a life based on purpose. That's what attracted me to her. Eleanor leaned back against David's chest, finally secure enough to show their relationship publicly. Around them, she could hear the soft pings of social media notifications as enhanced dinner guests began documenting this unexpected development. Roberto's expression softened as he looked at his children, all of them struggling in different ways with revelations that challenged everything they thought they knew about their family. "We've been watching all of you for years," he said gently. "Eleanor never asked us for money. She helped your grandmother with her medications when she thought we couldn't afford them. She volunteered at the shelter downtown every weekend. She sent us anonymous payments when she thought we were struggling with the business." Maria stepped forward, tears threatening despite her careful composure. "Elena called us 3 months ago, not to ask for inheritance but to offer to pay off Marcus's student loans and help Victoria with her real estate license fees. She wanted to do it anonymously, so you wouldn't feel obligated or embarrassed." Eleanor felt David's hands tighten on her shoulders. She'd never told him about those offers, too embarrassed by her family's assumptions to share how desperately she'd wanted to help them without seeming condescending. Victoria made a sound that might have been a sob, but her enhancement systems immediately regulated it into something more socially acceptable. "Elena, Her perfect features crumpled. "I was so jealous. You seemed so content, so sure of yourself. And I was miserable trying to keep up appearances. Every enhancement, every upgrade, every social media post was just trying to prove I was worth something." Marcus looked up from his financial displays, and Eleanor was shocked to see genuine vulnerability in his expression. "I've been living a lie on social media. All those investment tips, all that success advice. I don't know anything about real success. I've been faking it so long I forgot who I actually am." The admission hung in the air like a confession. Around them, the enhanced dinner guests exchanged glances, their social analysis systems probably cataloguing every word for future reference. Elena felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, but opening. "The foundation needs a marketing director," she said quietly, "and someone who understands social media education. If you want to learn what real success feels like, there are positions available, but you'd start at entry level and you'd earn every promotion." As the initial shock began to settle, David moved from behind Elena to face her directly. The dinner guests, the family drama, the technological surveillance, all of it seemed to fade as he dropped to one knee in front of her chair. "Elena Martinez," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the suddenly quiet room. "You've shown me what it means to build a life of purpose instead of just accumulating status symbols." Eleanor's breath caught. This wasn't how they'd planned it, wasn't the quiet moment they'd discussed during their coffee shop meetings. But looking at David's face, earnest, unenhanced, completely focused on her, she realized it was perfect. "You've taught me that success isn't about neural implants or social media followers or how many zeros are in your bank account," David continued. "It's about using whatever gifts you have to make the world better for the people who come after you." He pulled out a ring, simple white gold, no embedded technology or mood-responsive elements or social media integration. Just a beautiful ring that caught the light from the bioluminescent chandeliers. "Will you marry me?" Eleanor's yes was lost in the kiss that followed, passionate and desperate, and completely unconcerned with the enhanced recording devices documenting every moment. David spun her around, lifting her off her feet, And for the first time in her life, Eleanor didn't care who was watching or what they thought about her choices. When they broke apart, she realized that Victoria was crying. Real tears, not the socially optimized version her enhancements usually produced. Marcus was smiling, an expression so genuine it transformed his entire face. And her parents were beaming with the kind of pride that couldn't be manufactured or enhanced or optimized for social media. The groundbreaking ceremony for the Martinez Foundation's first affordable housing development took place under a real sky, one of the few places in the city where the atmosphere dome had been retracted to let in natural sunlight. Eleanor stood with David, her hand resting on the gentle curve of her belly, watching as construction mechs broke ground under human supervision. Victoria wore work boots and a hard hat, her enhancement-perfect manicured nails now chipped and practical. She was coordinating with local families who would benefit from the housing, her marketing skills finally applied to something that mattered. Eleanor had never seen her sister look happier. Marcus ran a financial literacy program for young adults in a prefabricated classroom at the edge of the construction site. His social media skills, once used to promote get-rich-quick schemes, now taught actual financial responsibility to kids who needed it. His follower count had dropped dramatically, but his engagement was higher than ever. "Ready to go home and work on book illustrations, Mrs. Chen?" David whispered in Elena's ear, his hands settling protectively over their unborn child. Eleanor's laugh was pure joy. Around them, the Martinez Foundation community was taking shape. Affordable housing integrated with community spaces, vertical gardens, and a library where Eleanor would read to children once construction was complete. The sign at the construction site's entrance read, "Martinez Foundation Community, where families build dreams together," with Eleanor's EM Sunshine logo subtly incorporated into the design. But what made Eleanor's heart swell wasn't seeing her own success finally recognized. It was watching Victoria and Marcus wave goodbye from their volunteer shifts, genuinely content for the first time in years, working towards something bigger than themselves. Eleanor had thought she was living a small life. She'd had no idea she was building the biggest life of all.